Every single minute, approximately 97 people fall victim to a cybercrime. But here is the number that should genuinely keep you up at night. The average data breach goes completely undetected for 197 days. That is over 6 months of criminals silently moving through systems, stealing data, selling it, and weaponizing it, while the victim has absolutely no idea anything is wrong. You have probably heard about data breaches in the news. A company gets hacked, millions of records are exposed, and then the story disappears. But what actually happens in the hours, days, weeks, and months after a breach is discovered? The full story is far more disturbing, far more complex, and far more relevant to your daily life than any headline ever lets on. In this video, we are going to walk through the complete life cycle of a data breach from the moment it is detected to the long-term consequences that play out years later. And there is one phase in this process that almost nobody talks about, a phase where the real damage quietly multiplies long after everyone has stopped paying attention. To understand what happens after a breach, you first need to understand what a data breach actually is and why they became such a defining feature of modern life. Before the internet, sensitive information lived in filing cabinets. Stealing it required physical presence and enormous effort. The digital revolution changed everything. Suddenly, millions of records could be stored in a single database, accessed remotely, and copied in seconds without leaving a trace. The first widely recognized large-scale breach occurred in 2007 when TJX Companies reported the theft of over 45 million credit card numbers. It was a wake-up call that the industry largely ignored. By 2013, the Yahoo breach compromised all 3 billion user accounts, a number so large it still feels impossible to fully comprehend. Today, the Identity Theft Resource Center reports that data breaches have increased by over 68% in recent years, and the average cost of a single breach has climbed to $4.45 million according to IBM's 2023 Cost of a Data Breach report. So what actually triggers the discovery of a breach? In about 40% of cases, it is not even the victim organization that finds it first. It is a third party, a cybersecurity researcher, a law enforcement agency, or sometimes a dark web monitoring service that notices stolen data appearing for sale. The remaining cases are split between internal security teams catching anomalous network behavior and, tragically, customers who report suspicious activity on their accounts first. The moment a breach is confirmed, a very specific and time-sensitive sequence of events begins. The first 24 hours are pure chaos. The security team must simultaneously contain the breach to prevent further data loss, preserve forensic evidence for investigation, and begin the legal and regulatory notification process. These three goals often conflict directly with each other. Containing the breach might mean shutting down systems that investigators need to examine. Moving fast to notify regulators means making public statements before the full scope is understood. Organizations must also activate their incident response plan, which, if we are being honest, many companies have never actually tested under real conditions. Within 72 hours in many jurisdictions, particularly under GDPR in Europe, companies are legally required to notify the relevant data protection authority. Failure to do so can result in fines of up to 20 million euros or 4% of annual global turnover, whichever is higher. In the United States, the patchwork of state-level breach notification laws means that a company may be simultaneously filing notifications with regulators in 47 different states, each with slightly different requirements and deadlines. But here is what nobody talks about when it comes to the notification process. The letter you receive telling you that your data was compromised is often deliberately vague. Legal teams carefully craft these notifications to acknowledge the breach while revealing as little as possible about what was actually taken, how it happened, and what the company failed to do to prevent it. This is not conspiracy, it is liability management. Every specific admission becomes potential evidence in the class action lawsuits that almost always follow a significant breach. And lawsuits follow almost immediately. Within days of a major breach announcement, plaintiff attorneys begin filing class action suits. The T-Mobile breach of 2021, which exposed data on approximately 76 million Americans, resulted in a $350 million settlement. Equifax's catastrophic 2017 breach, which exposed social security numbers and financial data on 147 million people, ultimately cost the company over $1.4 billion in total when you factor in settlements, legal fees, and remediation costs. But here is the uncomfortable truth about these settlements: individual victims often receive remarkably little. After attorney fees and administrative costs, many breach victims collect anywhere from a few dollars to a few $100s, which barely compensates for the time and stress involved in filing a claim. Now let us talk about what happens to your actual data once it is stolen, because this is the phase that determines the real-world impact on real people. Stolen data does not immediately appear on the dark web for sale. Sophisticated attackers actually hold data for weeks or months before selling it. Why? Because they want to maximize its value. Fresh credit card data sells for anywhere from $5 to $20 per card. Full identity packages, meaning social security number, date of birth, address, and financial account details, can sell for $30 to $150. Medical records command the highest prices, sometimes reaching $1,000 per record, because they contain insurance information that can be exploited for years. The dark web marketplaces where this data is sold operate with shocking professionalism. They have customer reviews, dispute resolution services, and quality guarantees. Some sellers offer warranties promising to replace cards that have already been canceled. The buyers of this data range from low-level identity thieves running individual fraud schemes to sophisticated organized crime groups and nation-state actors looking for intelligence value in the exposed information. Here is the timeline that most people never consider. You might receive a breach notification letter today. But the attackers may have been in the system for 6 months before discovery, spent another 2 months selling the data, and sold it to buyers who will sit on it for another 3 to 6 months before using it. That means the fraudulent activity stemming from a breach you learn about today might not appear on your credit report or bank statement for another year. This is why cybersecurity experts consistently say you should monitor your accounts and credit reports not just in the weeks after a breach notification but for the following 2 to 3 years. The organizational aftermath is equally prolonged and painful. Companies spend an average of 11 months containing and recovering from a breach according to IBM research. Remediation involves patching vulnerabilities, rebuilding compromised systems, implementing new security controls, retraining employees, and often replacing entire technology platforms. The reputational damage is harder to quantify but very real. Studies show that companies experience a measurable drop in customer acquisition rates for up to 3 years following a major breach, and their stock price, while often recovering in the short term, tends to underperform peer companies for 18 to 24 months afterward. What should you actually do when you receive a breach notification? First, take it seriously even if it feels routine. Second, freeze your credit at all 3 major bureaus: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. This is free and prevents anyone from opening new credit accounts in your name. Third, change passwords for the breached service and any other account where you use the same password, which is itself a practice you should eliminate entirely by using a password manager. Fourth, enable two-factor authentication everywhere it is available. Fifth, sign up for the free credit monitoring that breached companies are legally required to offer and actually use it. The broader lesson of the data breach lifecycle is this: we are living in an era where your personal information has already been exposed multiple times whether you know it or not. The Have I Been Pawned database, which tracks publicly known breaches, contains over 12 billion compromised accounts. Before you go, if you learned something valuable today, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to CyberShield Daily for a brand new video every single day. We will see you in the next one.